Aquarium lids. A simple thing we have in the hobby that we use in our tanks, but some people don't like them. Some people love them. It's a pretty basic thing to talk about, but I'm going to go into a few things you may not know about them. But you may know this about them already. Well, let's get right into it. First, I'll start off with the four things is why people would not want to have lids on their aquarium. The big one being that it's much easier to work in them because you're not having to fumble with lids and move them all the time. The second one would be it's kind of goes hand in hand with the first one. It's easier to feed your fish. Again, you don't have to open the lid, put the food in, and close it. It's very simple. Just go around each tank and sprinkle it in, which would be kind of nice. Seems silly, but it does make things a little bit easier and more enjoyable. Another thing is we have a heavily planted tank or a lot of plants that grow tall, such as water sprite floating on the surface and other various plants. I can't get into all the plants because I wouldn't have time in this video, but it allows the plants to go right up out of the aquarium, which a lot of people think give it a nice look, and it does. Now I'd like to talk about the huge list of things of why lids are good and why I think they're needed and why I use lids in all my aquariums. I specifically like my glass tops the best. I don't like the plastic ones with the built-in lights and all that, but to each their own. But let's get right into this list. Get ready to write things down. Well, I mean, we all have common sense, right? We kind of understand why a lid would be important on an aquarium. The first one's pretty evident. It stops fish from jumping out. I have seen videos time after time saying they came out in the morning and their fish was dead on the floor. This happens if you do not have lids on your tank. Now I know when you put the lids on your tank, there is like a section on the back of the tank that's open because the lids aren't cut to fit perfectly because you need room for your filter and wires to go in, such as for heaters or power heads and things like this, right? But when you buy these lids, they come with a plastic trim that you can put in the back and cut out for those. That's pretty much common sense on that one, but as with this one as well, it also stops things from falling into your tank, small and large. Things like dust, debris, maybe something like an object that's big, could be sharp, could fall in your tank and harm your fish, or even harm the glass in the tank by scratching it. I don't suggest putting something heavy on your lid while you're working, but if it was heavy enough and it went down in, obviously we understand the dangers that your fish could die or crack your glass. I'm sure we've all seen these cute little videos online and they are funny, but having lids on your tank can also stop pets falling in your tank, like your cat. Cats crawl on top of these aquariums all the time. Now when it comes to dogs, you're really not going to have that problem, but I have something in my house that would be also very beneficial for me to have lids on, and that is birds. We keep a couple birds here and they're small, and if they fly around the house they could easily fall into the tank. God forbid my Quaker parrot would fall in the Oscar tank. I'm pretty sure we'd all know how that would turn out. Another big one for having a lid on your aquarium is it reduces evaporation. I've seen it. Anybody that keeps aquariums long enough understands that after about a week or two, the water level in your tank is dropping, and that's because it's evaporating straight out of the water. Having a lid on your aquarium prevents this by creating a barrier between the surface of the water and on the underside of the lid. And what's also beneficial about that is that humidity in that area that we just discussed is warm and humid, and it's great for labyrinth fish like betas who come to the surface and breathe the external air, and when they breathe it, it's nice and warm and humid for them, which is a great plus for anybody who keeps betas. Another good thing about having a lid on your aquarium is it does help with temperature fluctuation, which not only saves you on money with the heaters having to turn on and off so much, but it does, like we discussed earlier, stop evaporation, which saves you a little bit on your water bill. Having to top your tanks off every week or 2 weeks, it's going to be different depending on your aquarium and, your house. I have seen where people were saying that they thought if they had a lid on their tank that it would reduce oxygen in the tank. Well, I've been keeping aquariums for a long time and I've never had an issue with low oxygen in my tank due to an aquarium lid. I mean, if it does, it's not even to a measurable degree. And all my fish are fine, as you can see. All my aquariums go around my dining room, and I absolutely love having them in here going around my table where me and my family eat. It's a pretty nice view while you're eating, I think. But that's it. I just wanted to give you some pros and cons about having lids on your aquariums. In the end, it's your decision. You can do what you want, and maybe you don't have to have a lid on your tank, and if you don't, you really don't need to. It's your choice. It's just if you want to deal with evaporation and the other things we discussed. In my opinion, I wouldn't have an aquarium without a lid. Although it would be nice to keep them off because it is easier to work in them. You don't have something else to fumble and get in the way. But the pros are by far outweighing the cons in this situation. So the list of pros for having a lid on your tank greatly outweighs the cons of not. So, but again, it's your choice. You can do what you want. Me personally, I do it, and you know, I've never lost a fish that could jump out because it jumped out of my aquarium because I do have lids on my tank. You know, there is always that little measurable degree they could jump out of the back because on some of my tanks I do not have that plastic trim on the back. I just leave that open. But it's never happened yet, and knock on glass it doesn't. So let me know in the comments below what you think of this video. You know, making a video about glass tops is kind of silly. It's something I don't see a lot of, but again, like I said, I'm coming back to the basics, and I have seen a lot of questions about this subject, so I thought I'd put a little video out there. Okay, thanks again, guys. Have a good rest of your week. Be safe. Thanks for stopping by.